In this article, I want to discuss confidence, specifically for executives around the boardroom table. The assumption is because you're an executive, a managing director, and you are within a boardroom or a boardroom table, then that you've got supreme confidence. You know what you're doing. You have the ability to engage and challenge as we would expect those behaviours around a boardroom table. But the reality is starkly different, and certainly through my experience of executive coaching, that's not been the case. We've got to remember that people who are executives, who are managing directors, who sit around a board, actually have probably different behavioural styles. Some will be very relationship orientated, others very details orientated, some will be extremely friendly, and others, the ones often that stand out the most, will be very, very dominant in their approach. And with the behaviours also comes the experience. How is it that we got to the board in the first place? What was my journey to the board? Was I hired in and headhunted, or did I grow through the business and get promoted to the board? In which case, again, it can have an impact on confidence, from being overconfident to maybe not having quite as much confidence as you would like to have around the boardroom table. So there are a few areas that I'd like to just offer in this article. And the first is practice and preparation. Practice and preparation is a sure way to build confidence. If you know that you've got a boardroom meeting coming up and you know that there are elements that you need to engage with, that you are sharing, that you have got to present, then practice and prepare. And here's the interesting point. If it is a verbal presentation, if it is on PowerPoint, or if you are presenting numbers or talking people through a report, then you have to verbalize it. Anything that you're going to verbalize, you need to practice in a verbal context. The next one is having a positive attitude. You're there for a reason. This whole newsletter that I write is all about organizational health, and that starts almost certainly with the organizational health being driven at boardroom level. And so recognize the value that you add, recognize the importance of your position, recognize that actually having a positive attitude is a great way of turning up, fired up, and ready to engage. Now, this isn't about being cavalier or anything of that nature, but if we turn up with a negative attitude, and that might be a case of actually suffering from that interference, where there may be a little bit of anxiety, a bit of worry, a bit of concern about entering into the boardroom, then you're not going to be at your A game. And that's always going to be a challenge. So a positive attitude, and again, they don't just happen. You've got to work on positive attitudes. And the other is not to let your mind wander, is to focus on the moment. Now, one of the really enjoyable and challenging aspects of being a board member is that you don't just focus on your area of expertise. You are invited to a board in order to control, to help, uncover, to maintain, to be accountable for the organizational health. And that means that any area that is discussed, it may be a marketing director that is having a conversation, you might be the financial director, you still have a view. You still have the ability to, focus in terms of exactly what is being discussed at that moment and engage with it. It's not just a case of waiting around the table until it's your turn to speak. And the final one is, I'm obviously going to be a bit biased here, but get an executive coach. Have someone who can help you develop those skills. And there's a really important reason, because if we look at practice and preparation, positive attitude, and focusing on the moment as three pieces of advice today to build confidence, if through engaging an executive coach you're able to bring those to the forefront, work on them, and get better at them, the reality is you will have a positive impact on the organizational health of the business. You will have a positive impact on the engagement of the team. And that's the point. If you're watching this at the moment and you're an executive, and you notice that actually, dependent on how you feel, will depend on whether or not people will engage with you in the organization. Dependent on how you turn up, whether you're smiling or not, will tell you whether people will, avoid you or engage with you. That's the power of an executive, and it's not to be underestimated. So, there you are today. Practice and preparation, positive attitude, focus on the moment, all of which will help to build your confidence around the table, and ultimately bring it all together. Invest in an executive coach. I hope that's helpful today. Thanks a lot.